Hello, everybody. It's Frank Leone again, and welcome. And we're happy you're part of our episode viewing universe today. And today I'm going to be talking about turning positive body language to your advantage. It reflects chapter 57 of my book, 77 Ways to Perfect Your Communication Skills. There it is. Mitch is pointing to it. In fact, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. 77 ways to perfect your communication skills, enhancing your personal and professional relationships. And this is episode number 27. So here I am.
All right. Hey, thanks, Frank. And hello to everybody. And just to kind of set the stage for you, that every one of these episodes, these weekly episodes, mirrors a chapter from one of our books. Frank talks every other week about communication and perfecting those skills. And on the opposite weeks, I'll talk to you about leadership, various principles, tips, and takeaways, so you can become an exceptional leader. And that's really the nature of our YouTube channel experience. Frank and I collectively have almost a century of experience as leaders, communicators, and our whole mission is about giving all that away, sharing it with people, and hopefully helping people enhance not only their professional lives, but also their personal lives. I mentioned briefly my book, 77 Principles, Tips, and Takeaways for Exceptional Leaders. Hopefully will be out later this year. And also each week we award a question of the week. So stay tuned for that. We'll be doing that at the end of this episode. Of course, we ask you to please subscribe if you like what you see, so you don't ever miss another episode. And be sure you tell your friends about us as well. Hit that like button for us, if you would, at the bottom of the screen. And of course, leave your comments and your questions. We love interacting with our audience. And with that, I'm going to kick it right back over to Frank, who will talk to us today about his topic about body language. Frank, take it away.
Thank you very much, Mitch. And ordinarily there's two of us every episode to bring cheer into your day. And I'm proud to say that we're being joined by a third guest today. Let me see if I can get things lined up here. Where's the guest? There we go. That is Brava Leone. And Brava is, by the time this episode airs, is going to be having her 13th birthday. So she's, for those of you that care, she's going to be bas mitzvahed in just a couple weeks. And she's one of the love of our lives. So if not the love of our lives. So we just love Brava. So she's going to be part of it. But in any event, episode number 27, again, it is entitled Turn Positive Body Language to Your Advantage. And the basic point of today's session is that a good communicator can learn an awful lot about the body language that they see others emit to them, but can also be very conscious of the body language that they exhibit to others and how that might be interpreted. It is definitely an ability to comprehend and recognize body language gestures is a very essential point to anybody's communication portfolio. In the book, I talk about an example that I use, and I hope there's some poker players out there because I've always enjoyed playing poker. And when you play 7-card stud, a very popular poker game, you ultimately have 4 cards that are showing and 3 cards that are not, that are called in the hole. And in the book, I point out that is really a good example of what body language is all about. Metaphorically speaking, what you're basically doing is taking the 4 up cards that you see in somebody else's communication and seeing through and deciphering what those 3 down cards look like as well, so you really know what they have in their hand. The reality is usually when you're dealing with somebody that all you know is what their 4 up cards are telling you, i.e. what their verbal communication is saying. This allows you to sort of complete the picture and really understand what they're trying to say and the perspective that they're coming from. Now, in the book, there must be 15 or 20 different examples that I give of body language, gestures, and what they mean. And I'll give a couple of them just as examples. Number one is the classic one that we all sort of know, where you sit with your arms folded like that. We see it in politics nowadays. A very high profile politician is often seen with his arms folded. And that basically means that the person's insecure, that they feel threatened. And it's a key body language example. Number two would be leaning back. You know, if you're talking, you sort of lean back. What does that mean? It means disinterest. Body language experts will tell you that when somebody leans back as you're talking to them, it means they're generally losing interest in what you're having to say. A good body language decipherer will notice that and immediately put a charge into what they're saying to try to get things back on track. Number three is touching your nose. You know, like that. What does touching your nose mean? Anybody want to guess? Mitch, you have any idea?
Maybe you're got an itchy nose or something. I don't know. What could it
Well,
be?
you know, I can't argue with that. That could well be it. But body language experts will tell you that that's disbelief. Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah. So that's another one. And then the fourth one that I want to share is hands on your cheek, like this. And it means that they have kicked gear into a higher level of intensity in listening to what you're saying. So it means if you're trying to rope somebody in by getting a point across and they touch their cheek, it suggests that you're being successful, that they are really understanding what you're saying. So that's my introduction. A couple examples, and always remember the poker analogy. Mitch, you ready for a tip?
Hey, please, let's go ahead and get rolling. What's your first tip of the week?
Okay, it looks like Brava is raring to go as well. Tip number one is create your own inventory of common body languages. I gave you four, a little starter kit. You know, get the book and you'll immediately expand that a little bit longer, or do some research. You Google it, take a look at it. Or when you're dealing with other people, notice things and create an inventory as well. The deeper and broader inventory you have, the better you're going to be in deciphering those three hole cards. Tip number one is to create your own inventory of common body language signals.
And Frank, I suspect as you develop that for yourself, for everybody watching, that you develop those body language skills to help shape your communication style. Would that make sense? For instance, you know, to get people to touch their face or to lean in, what are the things that you as an individual can do to help promote that kind of activity? That seems to be my takeaway on that one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in that you want to encourage body language on the other part because it helps fill in the blanks. And I have to emphasize again that being a body language master goes both ways. It is being a body language master in understanding where the other person is coming from, but it's also being a body language master in making sure not to emit unnecessary or revealing body language gestures on your own part. So it goes both ways.
Got it.
Okay.
What's tip number two, Frank?
Tip number two, I got one, is eliminate negative body language. And by that, I mean, you know, we went over some examples, you know, the folding of the arms. Well, you know, it's not a good thing. You have to assume going in that the other party has seen this YouTube session, this YouTube episode, and is going to decipher your body language. So by gosh, you don't want to give them any hints about what you're thinking, especially if it's something that's negative, like folding your arms, showing a sense of insecurity. So again, it's something that goes both ways. And, you know, in your communication style, which hopefully over the whole course of mastering what we're talking about in the communication and leadership training sessions, as well as in the two books. Over the whole course of things, one of the things that you need to do is learn how to communicate without inappropriate body language signals coming out of your end. Tip number 2 then is eliminate negative body language.
Excellent point there, Frank. What's tip number 3?
Tip number 3 is focus on the other's body language cues. In other words, you want to really focus on it. Remember, a couple weeks ago, we covered probing and how important that is and how you should sit at the edge of your chair looking for opportunities to interrupt the other person and ask them to add an additional level of specificity to what they're saying. Well, the same thinking is appropriate to the body language expert as well, is that you basically want to sit on the edge of your chair looking keenly with your eyes to try to pick up body language signals. Remember, it's just not the 4 that I gave you. You can have an inventory of 20 or 30 different body language signals that if you really master that and are always on the alert to pick up those signals, you can really make a significant breakthrough in understanding their perspective far more than they would think that you're understanding it. So again, tip number 3 is focus on others' body language cues.
And there's so much to take away just on that one. If you're communicating and you're delivering a message, there's a whole lot more going on than just the words coming out of your mouth. You've got to be processing how they're being received by your audience or the people you're talking to, and really that is one of the key principles of shaping your message in a way that it's going to land where you want it to land. So great tip there, Frank. What do you got for tip number 4?
Tip number 4 is meld verbal language with body language. And this is outgoing, this is emitting body language. But the point here, if you are embracing positive body language techniques to enhance your presentation, then you want to be ever the talented actor and meld these body language movements or gestures to coincide and time perfectly with what you're saying. So for example, Mitch had mentioned it before, leaning forward suggests a greater intensity of interest. So you want to meld when you're moving forward at exactly the time that you might be asking that other party a question and you're eager to hear their answer, for example. So you want to meld the two things as best you can so that that A plus B adds up to more than the sum of the two parts. So tip number 4 is meld verbal language with body language.
So managing a lot of dynamics while you're communicating. Great point, Frank. What do you have for tip number 5? Go ahead and close us out.
And indeed, when you talk about managing many dynamics, it's all part of one's ability. It's like anything else. At first, it's forced and you got to work on it. But after a while, it just comes natural. It's just part of your skill set. And you want to get to that point. It's not that hard to get to that point. It doesn't take that much effort to get to that point. But you got to start by creating that inventory and understanding what the arsenal of body language gestures is that others may present to you, that you may present to them. So we go into tip number 5. Tip number 5 is intervene quickly when you detect cues. So what I mean by this is when you pick up something, just don't let it ride. It's a signal for you to potentially say something to reinforce that moment. So if in fact somebody is showing you the insecurity side, make sure that you say something that calms them down. Say something positive, complimentary, get them out of that insecure mode that you can tell that they just went in. Why are they being insecure? You got to compute it the best you can. Are they being insecure because they don't buy what you're saying? Or are they being insecure because they feel that the next sentence you're going to say is going to be critical or harsh in some way? Whatever it may be, you want to react to that and change the course of where you're going if it's a negative body language gesture that your antenna is picking up. So tip number 5 is intervene quickly when you detect body language cues.
Great point there. Really, to not only make the other party feel good or safe, or to encourage them to listen deeply, but it really helps set the scene for whatever crescendo you're taking your communication topic to. So great point there, Frank. You want to go ahead and recap those 5? We'll roll them up on the screen as you go through them.
Absolutely. Tips 1 through 5. Tip number 1 is create your own inventory of common body language. Tip number 2 is eliminate negative body language. Tip number 3 is focus on others' body language. Tip number 4 is meld verbal language with body language. And tip number 5 is intervene quickly when you detect cues.
Well, excellent job as always. Every 2 weeks, folks, you really get some good nuggets to take away and apply to your as you seek to perfect your communication skills. And great job again, as always, Frank. So everybody, next week we're talking leadership, and I will take the lead as we get together. And our topic will be about building and maintaining trust. You're a leader. It is an imperative for you to become an exceptional leader. So we'll be talking about trust next week. And as we wind things down here, just a quick reminder to remember to subscribe, like us, leave us your comments and questions, and maybe you'll earn a prize for the best question, which, by the way, is a 15, 20-minute phone call with either Frank or myself, whoever is delivering that week's message, and we will get you on the phone and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, either expand on our books or offer any kind of insight we can do to help you enhance or grow your personal and professional lives. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Frank. He's going to talk about this week's question of the week and then share his closing personal thought. Frank?
Okay, Mitch. Yeah, thank you. As always, we do have an interesting question this week, and that it's a question that's not associated with a specific teaching element of a previous episode. Rather, it's a more generic question. But it comes from somebody named Jerry Grote, or Jerry Grote. I'm not sure how Jerry would pronounce his name.
So wait a minute. That's not the Tom Seaver's catcher, Jerry Grote. Wouldn't that be cool?
Well, I don't know. Jerry, if you're out there and you caught some of Tom Seaver's fastballs back in the day, let us know. I'm for anybody that doesn't know it, I'm a diehard New York Mets fan. So I remember that Jerry Grote, from he was a catcher,
Yep.
I remember him well. So anyhow, Jerry, whether it's the famous one or just a regular Jerry, his question is, why do these episodes mirror your book? So I guess he's basically saying, why are we doing it that way? And the whole idea has been that in a perfect world, in an optimal world, people that have the book can watch the episodes, and it'll be highly complementary. That you can learn that much more by going through both. Number one. Number two is that if you just watch the episodes and don't buy the book for whatever reason, you can still gain the benefit of a lot of what's in the book. Obviously, we can't cover everything that's in the book each week, but it gives people an opportunity to learn from us without having to invest in the book itself. And you may recall we've said many times over many weeks that our real purpose of this at this stage in our lives and this stage of our careers is just sharing what we've learned over the years with other people, to leave a legacy behind, to help other people. And we feel that communication and leadership are very rich topics. So again, Jerry, the basic answer is that one supplements the other. Two approaches are twice as good as just a single one. And for those that don't have the book and for whatever reason don't wish to get the book, it gives them an avenue at no cost at all to benefit from what we're sharing. Thanks, Jerry.
Yep. Excellent question, Jerry. Thank you. What's your closing personal thought this week, Frank?
My closing personal thought, and again, what Mitch and I have been doing since day one on this, has been incorporating a personal thought, just something that we've learned in life at the end of each session. And the title of my personal thought is called Connect the Dots. And what I basically mean by this, and this is more as much communication oriented as it is just personal life oriented. But to connect the dots, one thing that I've learned relatively recently in life is that an important skill is an ability to deduce, to connect dots, to understand different clues that you get along the way, put them together, and be able to understand and interpret more effectively. And when we're talking about communication, that's very essential, because one of the worst things about communication, I think I have a quote right at the outset of the book about this, is one of the worst parts about communication is when you think you've communicated something successful and you have not. So it's really important to connect the dots. One thing that I've learned is that you can be proactive in fine-tuning your deductive skills. And I've actually been doing that a lot in recent years. I do two things, now that I have a little bit more time in my life, that I think really enhances that ability. One is that I do a lot of crossword puzzles. I'm not much of a Sunday crossword puzzle kind of guy. I'm amazed that anybody can get those things done correctly. But early in the week, when they're a little bit easier, I like those Monday and Tuesday crossword puzzles in the New York Times, the LA Times. And I find that by doing that, you really learn to connect dots, to put together clues. And I've gotten stronger and stronger as a crossword puzzle solver over time. And the other companion activity that I do is, I don't do it every day, but I do watch Jeopardy a lot. And my wife, Diane, watches it with me most of the time, and is just amazed how often I figure something out. And I said, well, I really didn't know the answer to that, but it just made sense because they were talking about this and that, and those things sort of came together, and it made sense that the answer is very possibly that. So my point here is on a personal thought, to learn to be stronger deductively, to learn to connect the dots, and to recognize that one can be proactive no matter where you're starting from in enhancing that ability.
That is excellent, Frank. And that is a talent, a trait, and a skill that will serve you anywhere in life, folks, as you use discernment and deductibility in connecting those dots. It'll help you get through a lot of things that may stump you otherwise. So excellent point there, Frank. All right, so closing things up this week, episode 27. So thankful that you joined Frank and I this week, and Bravo while she was here. We are always happy and privileged to come into your homes, hopefully, or wherever you view us from. Thanks for joining us on the 77 group. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
And speaking of next time, Mitch, what's your topic for next week, episode number 28?
Yeah, episode 28. We are going to be talking about trust and why it's an imperative for exceptional leaders.
That's a good one. I can't argue with that. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. And may you all be extraordinary communicators. I think you're on the way. So thank you.